find a suitcase with money. All right. Um, Leslie-Ann, are you ready, or should we continue?
Yes, I am.
All
I
right,
am.
you can go ahead.
All right. Are you guys able to see my screen? Hello?
No, we can't see your screen.
I'm seeing
All right.
you.
Sharing now. You able to see?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see
we're
you.
seeing you.
Yes, we can see now.
All right. So, guys, thank you so much for having me present. Kajamba gave a lovely intro. This would be my second time presenting to the UE Psychological Students Association. No, I've done a few presentations, but yes. So today we're gonna look at understanding the profession of art therapy, and my contact information is on the screen. I will say that if there's anybody that's recording, there are aspects that have images from sessions that I've done with clients. So just wanting to respect that privacy as well. But all pictures that are here I have consent from the clients that I've seen. So we're just gonna look at what is art therapy, the populations um, that engage in art therapy and populations that I have worked with, benefits of art therapy and the career path. And you'll be engaging in 2 art activities, or what we call art therapy experientials. So I hope while I'm starting, while you have this quote on the screen, I just want you guys, if you have like a paper with a pencil, crayons, markers, anything that you can draw with in your presence, we're gonna do an activity soon. And it's gonna be one in the beginning and one in the end. Um, so I came across this quote and I love it. Art is when you hear a knocking from your soul and you answer. So the activity today is just like another icebreaker, and it also helps me to get some information from you all. So on a sheet of paper, whether it's just like a copy paper or a page, you can fold it in half and draw two by 2 inch squares. And on the square on the left inside, I wanted to use colors, shapes, words showing what you think art therapy is. And you have about like 5 minutes to do this. So do you guys need me to give the instructions again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so on a sheet of paper, you can choose to fold the paper in half. So say this is the paper, everybody can see my paper. So on one side, you're gonna draw a 2 by 2 inch square. You're gonna do 2, so one on the left side, one on the right. But on the square, the first square on the left, inside you're going to use shapes, colors, words to show what you think art therapy is. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. So I just need to do my perception of what art therapy is in either words or figures.
You can do a combination. You can use colors, shapes, words.
All right.
Right. And you guys have, maybe I'll give you like 3 minutes to do that. down. Breathe in, breathe out. Yes, there will be battles you sometimes lose. They never last for a day in your. Your shoes, you still need to rest too. You still need to rest too. I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure if there are any questions or anything coming up. So, how's everybody doing so far with their image? To always prove your worth, they won't make it easy. Hello? But baby, believe me,
I think so far they're carrying out your activities, Leslie, and they're very in their creative side is coming out now.
okay, I can't see anything. Oh, I think I know how to do it. It's okay. You can keep your magic to yourself, keep it tucked away. They'll have to find another wonder for today. You don't always have to be the one to save the world. It's okay. Okay. All right. So I think everybody should have gotten their image in. Would anybody like to share? Before you share, I must backtrack. I understand that the meeting is recorded. Whatever information that is shared is confidential, but you guys are all psychology students, so I figure you will respect you. That process will be respected, so it's fine. Okay, so would anybody like to share their activity? It's a no judgment zone. Hello? Nobody wants to share? I'll probably start calling some names.
Leslie Ann, we have Tasha Green saying, I'm super focused on my drawing box. Wow.
Can you just share what you've done, Tashay or Tashay?
It's Tashay. Give me a second. You can go to someone else while I prepare.
Okay. Even if it's just what you have so far, and then you can continue working on it. Just want to see what are some of the concepts.
Okay.
You're sharing, Tashay? Can't see. Or is there anybody else who would like to share? Oh, Tashay.
Oh,
Okay.
can you see me? This is my box so far.
Ah, is it saying expression?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you use what colors? Purple? Is that
Pink.
purple? Okay. Are there any other things inside the box? It's hard for me to see.
I'm not even sure what you're seeing.
I just see the box and I see the word expression, but I see that you have something in the background, but I don't know what that.
Oh wait, hold on, give me a second. It's kind of
So
dark.
you okay. So your Tasha, your understanding of art therapy is what? Oh, I see like a scribble.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your understanding of art therapy?
Um. Well, I'm not a very artistic person, but I doodle a lot, especially when I'm feeling kind of anxious and I need to stop thinking. So whenever I doodle like this, it kind of helps me to stop thinking so much.
Okay. Okay. So thanks for sharing that, Tasha. So your interpretation of art therapy is that it's about expression.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to share what their understanding is, or just tell me what you think art therapy is?
I don't have a visual depiction, but I thought maybe art therapy could involve becoming familiar with what's in your mind by depicting it visually.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Kajambo. Anybody else?
When I think of art therapy, this is Najani speaking, by the way. When I think of art therapy, it kind of reminds me of the Rorschach ink blot test, where you project what's happening in your mind through your art to express yourself. That's what I get from it.
Okay. Remind me of your name again.
It's Najani.
Najani. Najani, I want you to keep your point, and we will see at the end of the presentation if you still think it's like the Rorschach test. Okay? So I'm glad that you said that. So thanks everybody for sharing. I would have loved to see. Oh,
Excuse me, Leslie, and there were a few people in the chat that had some comments. So
okay.
there's one who said, I believe that art therapy refers to the expression of your emotions and feelings through the art of drawing, painting, etc. Another person said, letting go and show. And someone else said it can be a form of freeing yourself, like journaling.
Okay. Creative journaling. Yes. Those are some good answers. Thank you, everybody. All right. So let's get into what is art therapy. So art therapy is a mental health profession that marries art and psychology to help persons of all ages dealing with various emotional, behavioral, developmental, and psychological concerns express and process their emotions that are difficult to verbalize in a creative way. So that might sound like a lot. So what I like to say is that I use art and I use psychology to just work with children, adults, families, groups, deal with whatever emotional concerns that they're dealing with or encountering and may have difficulty talking about it, and we're using the art as a tool to help them express themselves. So the art, and when I talk about art, it can involve art techniques like drawing, painting, sculpture, photography, origami. Now that COVID has kind of hijacked or lifestyles, that's the term I like to use. Everybody is saying it's the new normal, but it might not really be the new normal for some. It has hijacked our way of life. And so as a result of that, everything is transitioning the digital world. And so now you're finding persons have to approach art therapy not from the interpersonal space of one-on-one and somebody, or not just one-on-one, but being in the person's presence. is now being moved onto the digital platform. Um, so because you're all psychology students, or I presume majority of you are, the requirements to become an art therapist, and sometimes people think, they'll ask me, so what is your profession? And I'm like, I am an art therapist. So they think it's, oh, she's a psychologist and then she's an artist. No, I am an art therapist. It is studied and practiced at the master's degree level. As far as I know, it is not offered in the Caribbean. Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts did have a postgraduate certificate program in art therapy a few years ago, in which I was a program coordinator. I'm not sure if the program, I have since left, but I'm not sure if the program still exists. But that's a postgrad, which is really for, the purpose of that program was for persons who were already in the field of mental health and wanted it to incorporate the tool of art to use with clients. But art therapy by itself is practiced at the study and practice at the master's degree level. It's a 2-year program that involves internship hours. I believe it's 600 or 500. It may have changed because I graduated in uh, 2007. So I'm sure there are probably some changes. And I attended Florida State University. Programs can be offered both on campus or virtually. I studied under the US system, so I am an ATR, which means that I'm a registered art therapist. You have different qualifications may exist based on where you study. So the UK's credential program or process may be very different from Canada compared to the States. A bachelor degree is required. It can either be in arts or psychology, or it could be in another first degree, like for example, education. So some programs will require you to either take, so I have a studio art degree, that's my first degree. My program required me to take certain psychology prerequisites before getting into the program. Some schools may accept you and then within the first year or the first term require you to take these prerequisites, whether it's art courses or psychology courses. Yeah. I must say that art therapy is new to Jamaica, but it's not a new field. And we have about maybe 12 or more, we have more than 10 practicing art therapists in the Caribbean region. And we have, we have expressive arts therapists in the Caribbean as well, which means they fall under the category of an expressive arts therapist who is able to use all of the modalities. You have dance movement therapists, you have drama therapists, and music therapists. So we do have persons within the expressive therapy field in the Caribbean. So we're moving along. Trinidad seems to be the trendsetter for this. In Jamaica, you have myself as the art therapist, and there is Miss Zara Warner, who is a drama therapist, and my sister, who is a dance movement therapist, but she's based in Boston. So, looking at elements of art therapy, it's a trifold relationship between the therapist, the client, and the art. So the role of the therapist is that they would do an assessment, establish treatment plans and goals for the client based on the psychological, emotional, medical, and developmental needs of the client. We incorporate art therapy directives or activities, or sometimes you might hear me use the term experientials, okay? We do assess the client, but some art therapists may be able to diagnose and some can't. So in my case, I don't diagnose. I may recognize certain signs, I may use art therapy assessment tools, but I cannot diagnose a client. If I feel a client needs to be diagnosed so that I can help support them better, I will make a referral. Another thing is that there is a misconception about the role and the understanding of art therapy, especially in Jamaica, because the practice has been a lot of maybe psychiatrists or psychologists may hire an artist to come in and work with their clients. And so the artist has to be supervised by the psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't have to be supervised by any of those professionals. I'm trained to understand how to establish treatment plans and treatment goals. However, I can work in conjunction with a psychiatrist and psychologist, a medical team, a treatment team, or I work independently, okay, on cases. The clients will be range from children, adolescents to adults. Sessions could be individual sessions, groups, couples, families. Um, the setting locations can vary from schools, prisons, hospitals, community centers, nursing homes, and private practice. Now, art is the most critical element of the relationship, which it allows the client to communicate a difficult situation, reflect on what they have done, address emotions evoked, and it is a critical tool that they can keep and use over and over to address the goals that may come up. The art therapy experientials and materials are used in tandem with the needs of the clients as seen based on their age, gender, diagnosis, stage of development, and background. So who receives art therapy? Is it just children alone? No, there is a wide range. So this graph shows you that it's a gamut of persons with different conditions that can be seen. And I'm sure my list could be even longer, but this is just a general overview of some of the cases or needs that persons would present and would engage in art therapy services. So the types of materials that can be used would range from things like drawing materials to paints, to paper, to sculpting. So I will hear persons may say, oh, I incorporate art therapy or I incorporate art in the activity. I have a question for you all. If you were to use a copy paper, I'm not sure how many of you actually have started the processes where you're doing internships or working with clients. But just think about if the paper that you drew on, say it was a copy paper or printer paper, you drew on it and it got wet, what do you think would happen? Hello? Anybody?
Yeah, I was just thinking about your question. Like, I don't know. I guess I would just put it to dry. I don't think
No.
anything.
Think about it. You drew your drawing that you just did, whether you use a marker or something, and it got wet. Just think of a copy paper. When copy paper get wet, what happened to the copy paper?
It would
Like it
smudge.
get messed up.
It would
Right.
smudge.
So then if you have and even if you let that dry, do you think the image is going to be the same?
No, it's not gonna come back.
Okay. So then imagine if you have a client who has anger issues or gets easily frustrated and they just worked on this image and the paper got wet. What do you think will happen?
They may feel frustrated.
So it may worsen the
Right.
situation,
Yes.
right? Okay. So the reason why I brought up that example is that you might think, oh, so it's just paper. What's she talking about? I don't see the big deal. It's just gonna get wet. No, but that's the piece about art therapy. every single component about the materials that we use are just as critical. They have major psychological components to the process. So it's not just about psychology where we're knowing and we're working with the, you know, the whether it's a theoretical approach or the background or the diagnosis of the individual or the presenting issues. That's one piece, but the art materials are just as critical. The surface area that the client is working on is just as important. The materials that they're using. So I don't know how, I wish if I can't see hands raised, but I'm not sure anybody, if you ever used finger paint before, or if anybody knows what Vaseline feels like. That's what the consistency of finger paint is. You're probably saying, so there is something called finger paint? Yes, there is. Not the action of you finger painting where you're dipping your finger and you're making prints. That's different. There's an actual paint that's called finger paint. So there are different qualities in the materials, different textures will help to evoke certain emotions, and there has to be an understanding of that. And that's a nice segue into what I like to say about art therapy is that you have this dual relationship of the process of art therapy and the product. So the process is, as I said, the use of the quality of the materials and the approaches and the directives that we give to the clients would elicit positive and negative emotional responses. So I am trained to understand, okay, if a person comes in and they're highly cognitive and they're highly in their brain and they're stressing out about something, I want to get them to a point where they're relaxed and they're not thinking about a lot of stuff. They're getting more sensory. So I'm going to give them materials that would cause that kind of response, and then I bring them back up to how they're going to move forward. And then you have the product. This is what the client has created, the object, the image. In making it, sorry, let me go back to process. In process, when they're making, it may also cause the client to reflect, and there's like talking about what happened. So for example, I had a client some years ago in a hospital setting, adult client with substance abuse, and she in a session was talking to me and was concerned that her husband was going to divorce her because of the nature of her habit. And she became very emotional in the setting. And I gave her a directive where she had to use a chalk-based material, and I just had her create how she was feeling, or a place that made her feel calm. Later on in the evening, I was doing a group session, general group, and we were talking about identifying like problems that they were dealing with. And then each person in the group had to create something that supported the person. They used like a kind of plasticine or Play-Doh type of material. And she came in late and she knew what we were doing, and she created this alcohol bottle with like chains around it. And when we're doing the processing part, where we were doing the discussion with the clients, I just saw her just break the chains off of the bottle, which was her way of processing that she is breaking away from the weight of her alcoholism, which is a very powerful act. So that's what the process would look like. And then there's the product, what they've created, the image, how they can keep it and use it moving forward. Hope that's clear. So why art therapy? Art therapy can help you in different areas like communication, resolving conflicts and problems, but using the art as the tool to do that. Behavior, managing, reflecting on behavior, developing coping skills, as it relates to emotions, identifying triggers for different emotions, encouraging relaxation techniques. And as you see, there's some images on the left. The second one in the middle was by a teen girl who she was depicting her anger. The one in the bottom, it was a client who had her previous image was that she was drawing her feelings about a previous relationship and it was stressful and it was a spiral and it had all of these negative emotions. And then at the end of the session, she created this where, you know, it was more a message to herself and positive messages to herself, okay, and what she wanted, where it says words like heart, happy, free, accepted, calm, safe. Art therapy really helps to increase self-awareness and self-esteem, encourage self-expression, reflection, and achieve personal insight. So let's talk about fake news. Fake news about art therapy. So I love this graph because it gives it really clarifies the difference between art therapy and art class. When I go into different settings, I get called the art lady or the art teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm not instructing. My role will vary depending on the client. So there will be moments where clients may not have been exposed or understand how to use a material. So I'm trained to understand how to apply it and support them in that. But I am not a teacher in the sense of grading them and, you know, introducing a technique and then, you know, you're marking if it's right or wrong. It's more about just helping the client use it so they know how to express themselves in the directive. So here's some Mythbusters. Clients do not have to be artistic. If they are, it helps. And sometimes that can also be challenging too, because when they are artistic, they then become overly analytical about how it looks or whatever. But you don't have to be. And I always get this, and somebody even said it when they're sharing their work. And that's why I laugh, because every time I do art therapy groups or something, a lot of Jamaican adults may say to me, what you have me I do? I'm not artistic. And by the time I'm done, and I'll say, okay, it's time, you know, we have to wrap up and now have discussion. I said, Lord, they can't give me now 5 more minutes. They're so engrossed in the process. Every age group is seen. I have worked with all ages. As I said before, assessment is involved, but that's not the sole focus or use of art therapy. So Najani, art therapy is not a form of the Rorschach test. Okay, so we're gonna debunk that myth right away. House tree person is not art therapy, guys. Those are psychological tools. They're projective psychological tools that may involve art elements, but they are not. That's not art therapy. I hope that distinction is clear. There is also this fad about sip and paint and adult coloring books. Adult coloring books for me would be a tool that could be incorporated. But the thing about art therapy is that you need to have a trained professional there to help process the emotions and the difficult things that come up and support the clients in that. Okay. I get this a lot. So red means anger, black means depression. They may, but I cannot project that onto the client. If I see it, it varies. It could be that, you know, like for example, they'll say culturally purple means royalty. A client came in and they were, you know, I said, create a memory of, you know, a message to yourself or something like that. And they used the color purple and they made something and they made a sculpture with Play-Doh and it was a face and the face was purple. So I said, why did you use the color purple? I knew why, but I wanted them to confirm. And they said to me, because that's my mom's favorite color. And the reason why the use of the color purple was important to that particular client is because their mother was deceased. And they had gone through the trauma of waking up to their mother being dead beside them in the bed. And we were processing grief. And so the color purple was very significant to them. So it's really about what the client says and having the client confirm what comes up in the art, okay? No art therapy activity is ever simple. So it needs time. Okay. All right, so a little bit about me and art therapy in Jamaica. I have been practicing art therapy for the past 11 years in Jamaica and 12 years overall. As you can see here, this is a list of all of the populations that I have seen and worked with, whether individually or group. And a lot of the projects that I've done have been grant funding. So grant funded, so it may have been like 2 months to 2 years. And then I've been in private practice actively since 2013. Now that COVID is here, I'm transitioning things to online, which is interesting. How am I doing on time, guys? Okay. Kajani, am I okay with time?
Yes, you're okay with time.
Okay. All right. So there are some of the art therapy treatment goals that I do employ, and I'm sure everybody understands what I mean by treatment goals. I'm sure some of you may have started the process to develop treatment plans for clients. If not, let me know. But this, as you can see, this is different than what maybe an art class objective would be, to teach a child how to draw perspective and then go through all of that. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing the pose. So some of my goals, these are just some simple ones that I pulled out. It varies. I've had different clients, it changes. So a few on the communication and development is I'm exploring healthy forms of communication. That could be between how the child communicates with family members, partners relate to each other, explore concerns relating to family conflicts. I had like a 12-year-old, well, she was 12-year-old or 14 at the time, young girl student diagnosed with cerebral palsy who created a house. She made a house out of plasticine. I helped her because I had to do hand over hand. And when I asked her about what was the importance of the house, she was like, you know, miss, because there was talks about her potentially moving to another country to her biological father. Even her mother had remarried, so she lives with her mother and her stepfather. And she said to me, why do I have to have two parents? So these, you know, you would think, oh, based on her condition, cerebral palsy, sorry guys, is a condition that happens during birth, medical condition where you have lack of oxygen that then impacts the development of the individual. It affects their mobility, movement, grasp, and so forth, right? So she said to me, why do I have two parents? So you would think, people would just think, oh, she wouldn't process that, she wouldn't understand that, but this was important to her. So, and we explored those emotional concerns. So as you can see, the different types of treatment goals that I've explored in sessions. So here are some examples of some artwork that the clients have created. The one on the left was done at with a corporate organization where it was focusing on stress and them identifying the stressors and ways to manage those stressors. The one in the middle was done at a children's home with adults and children with various disabilities. And they made, that heart is made from each of their fingerprints. The one on the right was created within an adult group setting that I had. And I think she was identifying how she was feeling very anxious. A few more pieces. There's the one in the middle with it's a sculpture right here with the purple and green. That was a workshop that I did. And this person created It's appropriate for now because this is one of the months where it's parent and infant, uh, what is it? Infant loss awareness month. I'm missing the first part of that phrase. Sorry, guys. But it's a month where we're focusing on pregnancy and infant loss month, awareness month. Thank you. So this one was really looking at the dynamic between having a child and having to give up the child. So that was a very powerful piece that came out. The two pieces on the left are created by persons who have disabilities. I think both were diagnosed with cerebral palsy again. And it was about sensory awareness or awareness of the body. And the one on the right was created by an adult female where I asked her to just draw something that made her feel relaxed. And she created nature and she used that as a coping tool when she was stressed. And this was an adult woman who had a pain disorder. So let's get into the second part of your activity. You should have your papers already. In the second square, I want you to use lines, shapes, colors, and words to show what you have learned so far from the presentation. And I don't know how much more time we have, Kajama, but I will give them 5 more minutes if that's 5 minutes to do the activity. And just for the record, typically, guys, a session would last, if it's a group session, depending on how many participants, it would be 1 hour to like 2 hours. So clients would actually get more time than just 5 minutes to create. But because of the time for today, it's just a brief thing. So again, in the second part of your image, the second square, you're going to use lines, shapes, colors, and words to show what you've learned from this presentation today. Is that
Leslie,
clear?
I just want to ask a question because I realized you touched on it. You said that art therapy is different with COVID. How exactly is it different? How has that been affected?
Okay, I am gonna leave the questions part till after. I just want you guys to engage in the creation, and then I can answer that question for you.
All right.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
man, that's cool.
Okay.
Magic takes away. I'll have to find another one for today. You don't always have to be the one to save the world. You're always the one to save.
Is everybody clear about the instructions for the activity?
And they never say thank you, God. I love
Yes, we're clear.
Okay.
you. Good night. I love you. Good night. Good night.
So while you guys are finishing this, just some pointers that I've found in working in Jamaica. We respond to other forms of art. So I'm not a trained music therapist, nor do I claim to be. But I've also been very much exposed in the culture, and I see where music really helps, movement really helps in sessions, and maybe because of my background in the arts, I incorporate some of those modalities. So I'll always sometimes incorporate music in sessions with clients. How are we doing on our images? Do you need a few more minutes?
No, I think you can go ahead.
Sure? Okay. All right, so guys, let's time to do the same thing we did before. Anybody wants to share their before and after images, or tell us what you did?
All right, so for my box, I just basically drew some images in one and I had some words in the other one.
Who's talking? Is that Jamila?
Yes.
And can we see? I can't see anything.
No, I can't share my screen right
Oh,
now.
sorry. So tell me again what you drew.
I drew some images. So I drew some faces, like a smiley face, and I drew a star, and I drew something that looks like a flowers.
Okay. So
And
what?
for the words, I wrote a couple words. I wrote moody. Well, I think that's just kind of describing like how I was feeling today or something like that. And I wrote motivated and happy.
Okay. So those are the feelings, but what did you learn from the presentation?
All right, so basically, I realized that um, it can be a misconception if you don't, like do your research. Because initially, I would have thought that, it's what something like what I think it was Najani said, where it spoke about. I think it's the Rorschach, where you just look
Mm-hmm.
at images and say, all right, then it's describing this or it's describing that, or you just literally draw. But no, like you engaged us, and I don't know if it's something, I don't know if it's a field that I would go into per se, but I think it's really interesting, and especially with this whole COVID thing now, I am really interested at the end to hear how you are managing to engage
Okay.
your clients.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for sharing that, Jamila. Anybody else wants to share? Nobody? No other misconceptions that were defunct?
I think whereas before I thought art therapy was more about the finished product where you visualize something in your mind and then you put it on paper and then afterwards you kind of analyze what that is. From your presentation, I realized the process might be a lot more important in actually having the therapy be effective and not so much just the finished product.
Okay, thanks for that. It's actually both. So I've really seen where the process is impactful, the making of something, the what comes up, as well as the um, the object. So I remember some years ago, I would give client, I still do, give clients an official art therapy journal book. And this one was made, I had it done, and it was made by persons who are deaf at the Jamaica, the, oh my gosh, Jamaica book binding, but it's persons who are deaf that make the book. And I asked them to do it, and I gave one to a little girl and she took it, and I gave one to a little boy. As we were closing out, we were terminating the art therapy process, meaning he was now at his end, and I was giving him this tool to keep. And I remember giving it to him, and he was just like, "What? My own personal art therapy journal?" And I was like, hmm? I was like, "Oh, I mean, that's great." But I was like, "Oh, dudes, boys don't really like journal." So, but he was like so excited. He was like, "Yes, this is my own book that I can keep." And I think what happened is there were family dynamics where anytime he would draw on something, somebody ended up using his book, because I think the family was in a business. And I think it was early this year or late last year, I was in a supermarket. I haven't seen this client in years. And this person is like pointing to me, and I was like, "Huh?" And a kid came up to me, and he's just like, "Hi, Miss Bell." And I was like, "Are you the kid with the journal?" Yes. He came up and he said hi or whatever. And that's just something that I remember, that this was this object that he kept, and this was important to him. So, one more story, one more image, sorry. If not, then we can get into the questions, and I'll answer. I think it was Najani's important question.
All right, so I want to know, like, who are the more interesting clients, as in kids or adults?
Um, okay, hold on. Hold on, Jamilo. So let me answer Najani's first, and then I answer that question. But remember your question. So let's get into Najani's zone, because it's not
And
COVID.
Dacia, I'm sorry, Dacia is saying that she would like to share what she drew.
Okay, so let's go with this, y'all. Then we go Najani, and then we go into your question, Jamilo. Sorry. I guess this is one of the things with presenting online. It's not like interfacing where you can actually see or hear a person. So go ahead, Daisy. What's the image, Daisy?
Oh, Miss, I was trying to show the image, but it seems like I can't show it.
Okay, so just describe it then.
Oh, so I wrote the word art with a T,
Mm-hmm.
and I drew like different faces. I draw a face with a smile, showing that the person is expressing how he or she feel happy. I draw a frightened or anxious face, and I draw a face where someone is smiling and crying at the same time. But
Wow.
like, if this person is in the art therapy, based on what I learned, they can express exactly how they're feeling, because like the face with the person crying and smiling, they're showing two emotion, but when they get the opportunity to draw, they can express how they truly feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I draw another one with a smile and one with a frown, and the frown has like light around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like a powerful image. I would have loved to have seen that. I hope maybe Kajamba or Aldis could collect like copies of you guys' work. I would love to post or share that, even on the
Um,
art.
Leslie, can she turn on her camera and show us?
She was trying to, but was having some difficulty.
Okay, all right. She can send it to us, and we will send it to you definitely.
Okay. All right. So thanks, guys, for sharing your images. So it was Najani, right? Your question was how what was the impact? Hold on 1 second. Are you guys hearing my background? Hello?
Yes, but it's not very
Yes, but
loud.
it's not bad. It's okay.
Sorry. Welcome to internet world. So all right, guys. So it was Najani, was your question, right? How 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 am I being impacted by COVID? That was the question, right?
I was asking how has art therapy been affected by the pandemic?
The profession of art therapy or me? or generally?
Generally, because you would be there in person to give them directions or directives
All
and watch
right.
them as they mold their sculptures or etc. etc. So how has the landscape been affected?
Okay, very good question. So here's the thing. I personally was never technologically inclined. Like I know what I need to do. Let me rephrase. There was always this thing, even when I was being trained about like the digital world and incorporating that, but we never really went into it in my program. But I had a professor who that was her thing, that was her baby. And I remember years ago, I had a client in another island, and not a client, I met someone who wanted to receive art therapy, but we weren't sure how that would work and the online thing, and there was no data really about what are the ethical standards of doing online stuff and what programs and thing, and I just didn't do it. Not that it does not happen. So you had therapists who would see clients online and they would use stuff. When COVID hit, that changed the game. I asked colleagues, I was like, what's gonna happen? For me, I was like, okay, so now I have to rush and do this thing where I have to put everything online, and I don't know how that would work. And to be honest, it has been a learning curve. It has been a learning curve. The process really needs that one-on-one interaction, or it works best with that, because then you can kind of relate. You don't have this barrier of is the internet gonna go, the client is in the middle of telling me something personal and traumatic, and boom, internet connection gone, and I'm just like, oh my god, client just shared their traumatic experience, and I'm not able to process in the moment. I'm not laughing at it. It's more of a like, it's stress. But you learn how to manage in the process. And I put in tools. I put in things to, like, somebody's laughing. Put in tools of, like, in my contract now, I have a more of a telehealth contract. I put in, like, I'm using, here's the thing, it's layered. So Zoom opened up, so you can use Zoom. WhatsApp is now being able to use, or in the UK, they use WhatsApp. I am hired to do a project with children in St. Thomas. It's WhatsApp. And I was like, guys, I'm not supposed to use WhatsApp. But I checked with my colleague and they're like, we're allowed to use WhatsApp for now. It's protected until that changes. So it's just WhatsApp video call. Sometimes I can't see what the client is creating. I have to say to them, send me the images after so I can write my notes. So it's a learning curve, it's a learning process. What did happen for me also is when before our numbers spiked, there are parents who call and they're like, you know, have a lot of grief cases have been coming to me during this season. And I was like, hey, you know, I offer it online or I also see in person. They're like, listen, we can't do this online thing, so I'm gonna go see in person. And then when our numbers spiked and there's potential exposure to me getting it from someone or a client have said they've been exposed to someone, we're like, okay, we're moving online. And everybody has adjusted. What else do I say to you? We're all the other piece was like how do they show their work? For clients who don't have the materials, I am now doing packaging that they purchase the materials from me and I send it to them. And so they have the materials that are needed for the session. So that's one of the things that I am doing and I'm branding. What else? It is, I mean, my clientele has not been like very consistent. So there are periods where it just feels really slow, but then things are coming up. What persons have been saying to me is go international, which is why I think Aldith posted the flyer, and I thought I had it on my presentation today. But it's the flyer that I know I'm seeing children online that are dealing with grief, COVID fatigue, stress, anxiety, family concerns. And I'm not limiting it to just Jamaica, it's international. So there's potential for things to be offered to support persons. And I think my process in this, because I'm the only one in Jamaica, I've always been, as far as I know, I should say. So I've always had to be continuously trying to advocate for the field, establishing standards. When I go into a space and mental health professionals might not understand what I do. They don't think I need access to files or I'm not supposed to do reports and submit it. And I'm like, I need to, but you know, it's just constantly, this is just another like stone that you just have to make the path and establish it. So I hope that answers the question. Najani.
Okay, I have a question.
Hold on. I think.
Oh, Jamilo.
Yes. So hold your questions, or you can put it in the thing.
I put it in the chat.
Okay. Jamila, what was your question again? If I have a, you remember your question?
Yes, you hearing me?
Yes.
I was asking you, which clients do you find more interesting? Like which age group of clients, kids or adults, or you have a specific age group that you find more interesting?
Girl, okay. My heart, passion, love string clients are clients with cerebral palsy. I find CP cases to be very challenging, but not challenging in a negative way. Is that they constantly have me like being creative with what modalities I'm gonna use. I have to like, you know, find objects and make it, and like their brains, even though their bodies are limited, I find their brains are sharp. And so I just have a love heartstring for cases with CP. I did a project last year. This was funded by a group in Canada called Smile Foundation, which is single mothers, I think initiating learning through education or something like that. I forget what the acronym fully means, but they're targeting single mothers who want to educate themselves. And it was in Mount Salem. I didn't know what I was gonna get, how a person's gonna respond, if I was gonna get the away I come with this thing and when I understand this thing. And I must say that was one of the best experiences I've ever had. It was very profound, very moving. Um, these were women ages from I think 18 up to, we had a grandma there who was present, and it was like 14 women who came in, and we were looking at just the role of being single moms, the stresses that they encountered, um, what areas of support. So each day had a focus with the art activities. And the first day, the ladies are just like, I don't, anytime they created, which I found is funny, they all call me and they're just like, come here. I don't want so and so to know. I don't want this person to know. But they all were doing the same thing. But I understand our culture now, and I understand that trust has to be built in any therapeutic relationship. And I know before I used to be like, oh my God, they're not talking. But I have seen where clients may not talk, but their art is powerful. Whatever they need to get off the chest is in the art. They're just not going to talk out loud, or they can't because maybe the setting that they're in, the information that they say is going to be used against them. You have to just respect that. And so I respected their need to like be protected. But by day 4, I think it was day 3, we were focusing on self and self-care. Another day we were looking at like ways in which their emotional reactions impact their children. And one lady, she never wanted to tell me because she think I'm going to report her to the police. And I was like, no, my role is to support you. So let's look at creating ways to find problem solve how you can adjust your approach to your child. Because clearly she recognized that this was something that was negative. And by day 4, when I asked them questions about their emotions and who experienced what, and we're doing the relaxation, I asked the ladies if they need extra time. This is a year later and I still don't get the answer, which showed that they were so engrossed in the process. And by day 4, everybody was exchanging WhatsApp numbers, and they wanted to create groups to support each other. And this was the same group at the beginning who was like, I don't want this person to know my business. So I think that was like one of my favorite groups and processes. So somebody else had a question. Thanks for that question, Jamila.
Yes, I have a question for you, Leslie. This is Aldith. And my question is, so what you're doing is very exciting and it's new and it's interesting. What opportunities are there for persons who are interested in exploring that area more? For internship, for example, are you allowed to be assisted in your treatment sessions, so that persons can actually gain online experience, hands-on experience?
Okay. It's a very good question, Aldith. The thing is, I get asked that a lot, and it's always, I would have to have students who are in either an art therapy program or maybe some kind of psychology program. The thing is, my clients right now are all individual clients. So there would not be a need for an intern at this time. That's hard to answer for me because it's such a confidential process. So it's not that internships can't happen, but it would mean that it would have to be an intern who is applying the tools of art therapy. So they would have had to study, and then they would be getting access to persons so that they could do the hours. At this point, I am not in the capacity to offer that, because you would need to have access to the facilities to do so. Usually what I always tell students is if I'm hosting groups, Then I will take on a person to assist me. Now that everything is online, that is something to think about. Doesn't mean that it cannot happen, but I'd have to have some dialogue with the student, because again, it is a changing face, if that makes sense. I hope what I'm saying is
Yes.
clear to everybody.
Yes, I understand. But
So
I would just like to put a plug in here for Psychology Students Association, because I think at some point we'll get back to our norm. So I just want you to know that if it is that you have group sessions, when they come back on stream, that the Psychology Students
yes,
Association is open to facilitate that kind of support for your field, right? So that our students also will get the exposure, because I know in particular of one person who is an artist and who is also studying psychology. So I thought that that would be very interesting to see how being trained as an artist and also being trained as a psychologist, how that would, come out if it is
work.
that they have the exposure, right? So that's why I was
What I
asking.
would say what I would say too is that I have been pushing Art Therapy Jamaica for the past 2-3 years. Even I've been working in Jamaica for the past 11, but the brand Art Therapy Jamaica the past 2-3 years actively. So one of the intentions is to have a relationship in the future with universities where internship processes can occur. So I will always be open to keeping that relationship. For the student that that's interested, they can speak to me. They can I had my information up at info@arttherapyjamaica.com or leslieann@arttherapy.com.jm. Our persons can contact me and we can talk about that process, because it happens. It can be
Okay,
done.
definitely I will pass on your info to her.
There are schools that do internships with the whole online process as well. So as I said, it's not that it can't happen, it's just like figuring out the kinks. So I'm open to having a relationship or talking to students who are interested. Are there any other questions?
All right, so there don't seem to be any other questions. So I'm gonna ask Kajamba to go ahead now.
Okay, and I'm just sharing the flyer for persons that's on my screen now.
Okay.
That's being offered for today.
On behalf of the entire club, I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for taking the time today to make this presentation and deliver a truly interesting presentation that actually highlighted a lot of aspects of this field that I personally haven't heard about before, and I'm sure other people are learning about it for the first time. And it was very much an engaging presentation, and also one that gave us a lot of useful information. Even in the answering of that last question, we got a lot of useful information that I'm sure will encourage people to actually explore this and actively try and take this on in the future. So we want to thank you so much for that. Thank you for taking the time to come here and be with us and speak with us. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, on that note, before you leave, guys, I'm asking you to please sign the register. The link was sent in the chat. Kajamba, could you just send it once more for those persons? All right, she sent it again. So, guys, just sign the register, and thanks to everyone for coming out. All right, so bye guys.
Bye.